Do you need like half a second for a computer? Can I say hello? Okay, cool. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 p.m. panel. Of course, this is Enter the Riserverse. I am, as always, your panel host, Jeremiah. I'm here to host and moderate and prod when needed these lovely human beings here that we are going to meet, your new best friends. Starting from this end, the person who I have chosen to introduce right as you've taken a drink of water, and I'm sorry about that. Please state your name and what you do and who you are in the Riserverse. I'm Kibo. I'm the editor. We want to be formal, Kibo Watson, but Kibo works. So I'm assistant editor, sometimes a writer, in-house letterer. I've done some illustration work as well for Riserverse Comics, and kind of jack of all trades for that stuff. Also kind of working as the agent, more or less.
I am Evan Millmeyer. I'm the creative director of Riserverse Comics, and I do a lot of the storyboarding.
Story concept, story writing, storyboarding.
Yeah.
You kind of do a little bit of all of it, depending on what story we're talking about. I'm Haley Ryan. I am the editor-in-chief of Riserverse Comics, and I also do a fair bit of writing. I do the storyboarding. I do like the cover creation for our books that are on the table now. A lot of the behind-the-scenes technical stuff I end up doing, and generally haranguing everybody else whenever they need it.
Fantastic. And of course there's a dragon on the very end. So,
Cat dragon over here.
I do, of course, have some questions I want to start out with. And I do understand that you have an intro video package, which I believe you probably want to get started with first.
So forgive me if the sound is too loud. We're working on it. And it also, for some reason, the VLC player, sometimes the audio dips out for a split second whenever it starts up, but alright.
Great brand communicated horror geek, thanks again to Riserverse Comics, where the extraordinary becomes reality one panel at a time, for sponsoring today's video. And now, let's get bloody.
We are here, now, as it ever has been. Caspis, land of 1,000 nightmares and as many dreams. Land of struggle and survival, of empires and enclaves, of conspiracies and combat. The industrialized United Republic of Hans, stronghold of Cinder, the desert city of Apex, the metropolis of Horizon, the looming sprawl of Nemesis, dozens of other settlements scattered at all points in between, ranging from shanty towns to collective farms to fortified independent fiefdoms, now as it ever has been.
Great brand communicated horror geek, thanks again
Got
to
on loop, sorry.
I did that on purpose just in case the audio did screw up on me.
That's very technologically forward thinking.
Because I knew that something was going to go wrong.
Well, that certainly gave me an idea of tone. So I'll admit, I intentionally came into this completely I wanted to learn. I wanted to know about this. I am definitely immediately thirsty for knowledge of this. I've got to know, what is the Riserverse? What's going on here?
Well, in what sense are you asking? Do you want to know what is the Riserverse in terms of the people, or what is the Riserverse in terms of the setting?
Oh, I didn't even know that there was an option. Let's
You've learned something already.
Let's talk about the world before we know who's inside of it. What is the verse within the Riserverse?
So the Riserverse was actually created by me, as I'm a psychopath. I created it a very long time ago and have revamped it over the years to the point of where it is today. And where it is today was I reached a point with the stories I was writing where the setting was solid. I was happy with it. And then I started collabing these two. And it became a matter of, let's combine things. He had plenty of characters that vibed very well with the characters I was working with. He had a whole world that needed to be adapted. And the current Riserverse was born from taking the world that I had created and adapting his world into it, which has made it a very interesting place.
It's worth noting that the starting arc that we have right now, the Asmus arc for the mainline Riserverse comics, which he says he created a world. It's literally the setting of Asmus. That's all that 90-95% of the characters in Asmus, that's Ev. And the other 5% was Haley and myself kind of fine-tuning and adapting things that she had set up from the prior stories, kind of bridging that gap to kind of meld everything together. It sounds harder than it actually was.
Yeah, we definitely stuck a lot to reality in the world that we created, but we also do a lot of old history too, where we take different events in history and we're like, all right, this is what happened instead. But we also then turn around and we're like, all right, this is how the world ended up to a point where it's still familiar as essentially an alternate reality of our world.
For the love of God, let me say the one thing.
Go for it.
President Presley happens.
Like Elvis?
Yes.
As in Elvis.
All right.
He doesn't die. He gets medical treatment. This is forward thinking, or
And this is something that has a rollover effect that causes all kinds of ripples through up into present history. We did some really interesting things, some things that like you're not gonna notice unless you catch little drops here and there. And Aspis doesn't touch on as many of them. It's a lot of the stories after Aspis that are going to be like, all right, here you go. Aspis gives you the first taste, though.
It is driving me completely insane that the first panel that I hosted today involved a discussion about a storyline where Elvis did not die yet and how that affected the world. And the last panel that I am hosting today,
as President Elvis.
the very first panel was about Archie's Riverdale. And here I am with Riserverse, Riverdale Riserverse.
Well, you gotta come full circle.
And that's what it is. You guys have really given me a full circle. So it seems, I love this idea that you have each brought, what is essentially a separate world and then legitimately build a universe out of it. That's what a universe is. It's worlds, pushing together and creating something that's larger. That's fantastic. So I've got a bit of an idea of what's going on with these, but the idea of what this first is. So what was, when you say that you had a world and then you had a world and then that you had characters, the order of these things that were happening, tell us a bit about the world that you had brought and the world that you had brought that survives. And then I would love to hear about what you brought world-wise, and then I definitely want to know about who's living here.
So, since the moratorium on the word is gone, my thing was superheroes. Because that was the thing that I was into when I started writing it, so I did superheroes. I like having people with powers. We call ours variants. They are a variant of the human genome. So, I did a lot with the variants, and then I'm a huge fan of science fantasy and gothic, so there is some gothic horror elements to it, and there's a lot of fantasy elements that are mixed in. There is a cyclical aspect to magic within the world, so magic actually exists at the same time as high tech, because when the stories after Aspis pick up is pretty much as magic is cycling back into the world. So a lot of weird stuff is happening, and it's not a huge spoiler or a huge reveal. You find out eventually that the reason variants are being born more often and why it is such a huge thing now is because magic cycled back in and activated the variant gene. So that is what I created as the base, and yeah, that's the backdrop that all of their stuff was folded into.
What was the world that you had that then folded into this?
How much should I say, or?
As much as you think you can get away with.
Give us a sales pitch, man. Like, let's...
So originally in my world, I didn't do magic, I more did superpowers.
Okay.
And superpowers were more a genetic experiment by a specific scientist who went insane in this traveling world. And my world is mainly where Aspis is. A lot of the...
We also did a lot of the post-apocalypse stuff too.
Yeah, my world was more post-apocalyptic. So, like, all of my heroes and all of that were not... Because my world, they weren't born with the superpowers. They were more given them, experimented on, and all of that. That, and a majority of the characters in Aspis are those characters. And the drawbacks that would have with having the ability to control shadows or even fire. Fire is a good one, where you have the ability to control fire, but because you weren't naturally born with it, the ramifications of you are not fireproof, or things like that. Or even superpowers of having laser eyes, but they don't actually do any damage. They're more just light shows that shoot out your eyes. Yeah.
Laser pointers instead of the Superman.
Actually, really fun.
Unless you want someone dead in the eyes and do it, of course.
Well, yeah.
I hope they don't blink too.
The idea of like a LASIK doctor who just kind of like...
Alright, hold your eyes open real wide and don't blink.
So actually one of the characters in the world is actually someone who has reflective skin. Yeah, like they're a mirror person. So the way that they work is that they're a therapist. In a world where... Yeah, so the biggest joke is that he's a medical officer. But like whenever like everyone comes to him for medical advice, he's like, I'm a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor. So whenever people actually come to him for like therapy and stuff like that, the first thing he says is like, what are you looking to me? What do you see?
So, sorry, go ahead.
No.
Just no?
That's Evan. That's how he
That's
is.
him saying,
I'm
no,
taking
you go
parts.
ahead.
I've got to be honest. I've been hosting events for about like 8 to 9 years now. This is probably the first time that I've ever said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you go ahead," and someone has just flat out went, "No." That is, thank you for a new experience today.
The funny thing is though that with him that also means like, no, you were gonna say something, you go ahead.
No, that's fine. I was just caught off guard by it. I'm delighted.
It's just that funny little like the evidence that we're like, we know what he said when somebody else is like, did he just say no?
No, it's wonderful. No, I do want to hear the next point that you had.
The next point was going to be, we actually have a speed character. Blur. He specifically is an interesting one because of the fact of his metabolism is wonky. So he's constantly obese, but whenever he uses his power, he burns through all the fat supply. So, like, throughout the story, you're going to see, like, this obese guy walking around, and...
You actually see him in book 1.
Yeah. And whenever he uses his power, his skin flaps. Like,
He becomes like an emaciated dude with a bunch of skin flaps because
Because he
he's
just
burned
burned.
through
He's
everything.
Through 400 pounds.
and he constantly needs to eat to just replenish that energy, and he gains the weight back.
Don't mind me jumping in. I think this is a great time to point out that's where a lot of the horror starts to happen.
Yes.
Like, what does he
A lot of
wear?
body. A lot of body.
A lot of sweats.
A lot of sweats.
A lot of things with zippers and buttons.
Same.
Clothing that have, buttons here and buttons here. Whenever it starts.
Suspenders for the pants, I imagine, would be a staple.
Yes. Slides. Plastic.
It's the horror of having to wear slides and plastic. But you said that they're.
You can see. I've actually got the book right here with the horse.
Yeah, I mean, you picked the wrong moment to use your speed.
Actually, we can send that around.
Oh yeah, please.
If anybody wants to.
Pressing ahead.
No problem whatsoever. I would definitely like to do one.
I'm gonna try to use the back.
Oh no, you're totally fine. In that case,
Good luck.
good luck.
So it's not just that. Evan mentioned the fire control power, but not being fireproof. There's a rather prominent character in Aspis who that is, in fact, his power, and he wears the consequences of it.
And Aspis is the
Aspis is the Aspis arc. This is the first book, the Fool's
Gotcha.
Gambit Part 1. It's going to span, we're looking at about, what, 25?
Thereabouts.
Roughly 25 books. That's heavy work. There are about 108 pages in that book. 2,500 pages to unfold this, but it's a big sandbox. It was fun to play and really dig into these characters with these horrible flaws to their powers. And melding the two universes, what Haley had created originally and what Evan had created independently, I'm so thrilled that I got to help these two mold this whole thing together and unify it in a sense of there's a real continuity here and that the magic can exist in what Evan created as well. Which opened up possibilities. It literally went from being 5 books to 25 books because
Just from the expansion of what was.
and books.
Yeah, because we were like, okay, yeah, we can get this done in like 100, 200 pages, and then we started to dig into it, and we were like, just from the art alone, no, we can't. This is going to be so many books, and we cannot put like a 500 and some page book on the table as our first book and expect people to be like, yeah, sure, I'll buy that.
No one's going to gamble on something that's big and heavy and expensive.
Not to mention, it will take so much longer to get the books out if we're doing 500 pages versus chunking it into 100 and some pages.
Which you had said that we had said world, and then characters, right? I mean, obviously, like through writing and stuff like that. But did you have some pre-existing characters and ideas that? Because I believe that that's what was said, that you were like, oh, I know exactly who I want to bring into this, or without spoiling too much. Like, who did you have that you immediately were like, I know who lives here?
So we have really interesting, this plays back into the long view. When we started off, we were writing prose stories for the comics. And I had this character that I didn't know what to do with, whether to write something, to try to use him for tabletop gaming in some setting. And it just didn't work. I couldn't shoehorn him in anymore. I had this idea of this happy-go-lucky guy, super positive, just absolutely radiating brightness, And one day, everything changes, and now he's suicidally depressed, but he's also practically incurable. So despite his best efforts, he just won't die. And what do you do whenever you've exhausted all of your options in that kind of scenario? It's a very dark kind of perspective. It's kind of indicative of my own headspace at the time. And I told Haley about it, and she said, I've been writing these stories why don't you see where he would fit there? And so Terry Bombesco becomes a fixture in the Riserverse. That was before Evan came to us with Hospice as a thing. By a couple months. It wasn't even like that big of a window.
Specifically, it was the mad scientist who was a part of it.
Yes, Dr. Glass. Go ahead, drop the name. It's not that big of a spoiler.
Dr. Glass.
Dr. Glass is a genetic engineer who was the big brain behind altering the world through genetics, developing a god complex, and constantly cloning himself. So there are thousands of him running around the world, and all of them sharing the same mental capacity. Him, where he goes around as a superhero calling himself Potato Man with a spud launcher that just
the potatoes.
that alters the genetic abilities of the potatoes to where one day he might be shooting out a normal potato, the other one, the potato just took out a building, that's a problem. With the innocent mindset of, I just want to feed the world, and not understanding the ramifications of what he's done.
The evolution of that character to where we see him at the beginning, that megalomaniacal god complex, to where he ends up as the clones progress, and we have that superhero Potato Man. That's going to be such a fun ride. I hope that anyone who follows along and reads that enjoys it as much as we did working on and creating it. Because I'm laughing because I know some of the things that I can't say that are huge spoilers that are just, there's so much over the top, and there's things that will teeter wildly from horrific to hilarious that are based around it and involving.
Part of that is because we went the Megamind route with it. It's all about presentation.
Yes.
Dr. Glass, Potato Man is our presentation character. He's the one that's doing all of the crazy things because this looks awesome.
While we're gonna continue the conversation, as anybody might have questions or anything that while we go through, thank you very much. Feel free to raise a hand or anything like that, and I will absolutely interrupt any of us to say yes, you, to be able to pop into one as well. I like it better whenever this is dialogue.
Free flow. It's fun.
So how this started with prose. Of course, and then each one of you saying, here's what I've been writing, here's what I've been writing, we should do this together. How do you start with that kind of project? How do you start to finally sit down and go, you know what, yeah, this works, let's do this?
So the whole thing started as conversations on game night before everybody was there and we were ready to roll for whatever game we were playing. And it was literally just like, if character A was in this situation, how would character B react? And character B, like it was either like one of my characters reacting to Terry, or like Terry reacting to one of Evan's characters. And then that snowballed into write a story. Like, I think there was, I can't even remember what the tipping point was, but there was one of those where he said that it would be such a huge thing for Terry, and he wasn't sure he could actually get into it, and there were so many like ramifications of it that it was something that he needed to stew on. I was like, write it down, and that became a story. And that was kind of how that started, and we just ping-ponged back and forth across like Discord, email, like, hey, I wrote this story. All right, here's one back. And we did all of that. Evan got to read all of them, and I think that was actually what finally tipped him into being like, I want to be into this.
Yeah, I had 3. It was literally right after I gave you the 3rd one or whatever. He read that, he was like, I have a character that would fit here. And then he lays all of it on the table for us, not just the character that we thought would fit, which was Dr. Glass, Potato Man. And as soon as he told me, I was like, oh, that's great. Yes, I see the potential already. And then he he keeps going. He's telling us about Asmus and how to get it. This is way bigger than what we anticipated.
The funniest part about it was that he was so hesitant to bring the entire world into it because he was like, I don't know how we're going to adapt it into this. I'm like, how much do you trust me? You're my sister. All right, give me 5 minutes. And I set it all out for him. It didn't need much tweaking, and he was like, I'm pretty happy with this.
And I think that actually folds pretty well into what happened where we started doing this. Because we had these prose stories up, and we started introducing these other elements. We all collaborated on a story based around at the time of Halloween 2016. These different characters interacting. And it was what, a 12-part story?
More than that, I think it's
14.
Actually, it might be like a 20-part story, but it's it's
and
well
the
over
program.
100 pages. It is actually a novella.
Yeah.
It is actually novella length. It's
and-
ridiculous.
And it really truly has the meshing and melding of all three of our elements and characters and everything pulling together. And sharing them on DeviantArt, through Discord, and a couple other channels. We started to develop a fan base that we could have never predicted. We actually got an international fan base. We had, Danny at the time was in what, the UAE?
No.
Saudi Arabia.
No, Danny's not the one from Arabia. He's
Oh,
the one from
who
Australia.
was that? I'm blanking. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't think we.
It's bad
I don't
when
think
so
we
many
ever
fans
figured
you
out
can't-
who
We never
was from
figured out
the
who tracked.
UAE.
We had people in the Middle East reading our stories, and it's like, how'd this happen? Now we have someone in Vietnam reading our stories. And it's not like a once or twice hit on the website. It's like every couple days, and we post a new story, and they're coming back every single time the same IP addresses. And then some of these people start joining the Discord and saying, hey, I'm from this country. I've been reading your stories. People from Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Germany. We didn't reach out to
We
all
got
of
the
these
UK
people.
and the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, the Faroe Islands.
That's the
I
one
still
that
don't
really-
understand that one. We never figured out who that was.
Oh man.
We never figured that one out. And that's so funny because, you know, you only get as much as the people want to volunteer of themselves to say, hey, I'm from here and I'm a fan. But we also, this is a little feather in our cap that I'm really proud of. We're really stoked. If you guys remember the sea change during the COVID lockdowns, the USS Maryland?
Yes.
There was a friend of mine from high school. It was one of the submariners that went out there. He was the second part of the second crew that went out there. He took the Riserverse Comics prose stories, the Riserverse Tales at that time.
He actually printed them out and he did.
Actually printed them out, and they went to the USS Maryland, and that entertained a lot of sailors.
That's great.
For God, they were out there for what, 3 months or something.
Crazy like that, yeah.
Yeah, he said the stories made the rounds and everything. You guys got some fans, and then all of these fans, including some of those sailors, started saying, as we put in the foreword of the book, you guys should make comics. Man, this would make a badass graphic novel. This would be a really cool comic. You guys should make a comic. Put the visual to it. You hear it 1,000 times and it starts to
sink.
Yeah. So we're like, how do we do this? We start looking for an artist. That's where my de facto agent thing came in. I can talk to people for longer than they can sometimes, or start talking. I don't have any shame. I'll come up and I'll ask price points off of people. Like, you have to extend yourself sometimes. So I didn't have a problem doing that, and there were a lot of ups and downs in that process. But out of nowhere, our artist for the Asmus art, Mimi, found us and said, here's my portfolio, check things out. She actually reached out to Haley and said, hey,
So you guys are looking for an artist. This is my portfolio. What do you think of my art? Do you think we could work together on something? And I took the art to them and I was like, I think we found our artist as long as the price is right, and it was.
yeah. So things worked out, and it was all because of an excellent fan base from the pro stories. Almost bullying us into doing comics. I mean, if you think about it.
The right kind of bullying.
It's the right kind.
Yes.
It's very positive.
This is the good peer pressure.
Yes, good peer pressure.
Oh, PIER because of episode. That's fantastic. So you get your own artist who essentially approaches you. You get the prose out. You've got already the fans are happening. These things are already going up or there. What do you do from that point on? Do you just start with adapting what you've already written, or do you just hit the ground and go, screw it, we've already written that, let's just go from this point? Do we?
So
That is actually exactly how that conversation started. Seriously, were you reading on that or something? Did you have the phones tapped?
Well,
Seriously
we're gonna
close.
go ahead and bring in the story police.
following us.
Oh, you know my FBI agent, right?
And hit no.
So Evan actually told us about one of the stories that he wanted to tell with his characters, and we went, that one.
Yeah.
It was just an immediate, me and Kibo just looked at each other, we were like, that's the story we're starting with. That is perfect.
And
It's
it's
supposed to be
snowball.
one story.
Yeah, it's a big sandbox. It was a fun sandbox to play in and play it hard. But yeah, the biggest thing is, because he brought that story to us, we said we want to give people something different. Because if you've already read the prose stories, are you really going to be that into seeing the comic right now? Or do you want to start at a different point with us and kind of go on this ride, because now it's a new story from us. Now it's something different from
Something
us.
that entices new readers, but also keeps the people that were already excited with the original stuff to begin with.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're not actually getting into adapting the stuff we've already written, not even directly after Aspis. We have other things that are supposed to fill that gap. It's going to be a couple of years before we start touching the stuff we've already written.
It's like a long-term plan,
Ambitious.
especially with it being such a large sandbox from the way that you're describing it, the different worlds, just the whole aspect of what's happening. It sounds like that where you sometimes come up with a linear story. You have your beginning, your middle, and your end, and it's like, well, here it is. We're done. We got that. It's like, no, people live here. It's not just these four people that we were
Exactly what
following.
I've said to them a few times, like, no, this is a world. People live here.
And what's the rule that came out of it?
Make it make sense.
Exactly.
That is a rule we live by. You can do just about anything in the book if you can make it make sense that this happens the way you want it to happen.
It doesn't have to make sense right this second on this page, but by the time we get to this point, that better make sense. And that's how we end up with other characters too that came into this big sandbox, because Heather goes, hey, what about this? This needs to happen. This character needs to do this. Why? What's the catalyst between A and B? Well, now we have a new character.
Yeah, like what
Here it
causes
is.
yeah.
And
There-
it's also kind of, in a way, a worldwide story, because we don't just focus on the United States. We don't just focus on one setting. Even the mainline, the Riserverse Comics imprint where the Aspis art is, it starts in Aspis, it's going to go to another location, and it's primarily going to stay there, but every so often it's going to jump to. And then we have the Riserverse Tales, which are side stories that take place all over the world that will, in some way that you might not be aware of immediately, it's going to connect back to what's going on in the mainline stuff.
And the whole thing with Riserverse Tales, the existence of it, we realized we needed that for some of these other ideas that, yeah, we could shoehorn them in here, but it's going to break this up, it's going to make it feel clunky. Let it stand by itself and breathe over here. Now we can do an anthology.
Good evening, Riserverse Comicon.
Party,
Starting in the lobby in
whatever it may be, if it's a 15-pager, a bunch of those together, and it's these side tales, we really love this character over here, and for whatever reason, you don't get into him as much, this character doesn't get explored over here, but we come up with a side story, here it is. It doesn't exist out of its own time.
I was distracted for half a second because I heard the thing and I was like, who is it? I was like, of course it's Captain Cash. And then someone walked, and then he walked back and so I was like, I thought that was Jeremiah for a second. I was like, it's not. And beat him up. I won't. He's so much more stronger and handsome and cooler than I ever will be. However, and the one thing, no. Well, especially, it's a principle. Well, especially with having the international fan base that you've acquired over this, it definitely, I'm sure, helps that you're not just keeping American centric. Like you're showing that it's like, no, we're thinking about this, and we're not just thinking because we're pandering. This is a world. This is people live here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a
Interesting
huge
things are
thing.
happening in other places too.
And I think it's a very simply overlooked thing by a lot of comic creators, unfortunately. Everybody in this room has the same thing. We want to see some kind of story we can connect to.
Yeah.
We want to see something that represents some aspect of us, some trait of ours, something we can identify with, right? And what's the easiest way to do that? Reach out to people and ask questions. And when you get that feedback from people, you can kind of, okay, we had this on the table. This does fill that. That scratches the edge. That fills the gap. Fits that need, that want. Let's do that. Let's steer here. Some characters start getting more popular than others for surprising reasons because something resonates with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the Mad Mummy shirt on. We didn't have him picked as a fan favorite out of the Aspis arc. People love this guy. And
What?
hell if we know why, but hey, we're happy. You know, we like
love
a
him
character.
too, we get it.
We love him. We love writing him. It's just, wow.
We were kind of expecting it to take longer.
Yeah, that's why we made shirts of him, because
It's funny, you put so much like work into like one thing and be like, yeah, this will be the one, and then people show up and be like, oh, this is the thing. And you're like, oh, that was. I just thought that would be kind of interesting. That was just
I thought
kind of
that
a
would build
side.
up like next book.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I guess we're doing this now.
there was one nail that we hit on the head, and I told them, I know this one character is going to be huge, and
Deerstalker is
Deerstalker's
everybody's
huge.
favorite.
Why? Because everybody loves a good monster.
Yeah,
Yep.
He's
The Wendigo, everybody loves the Wendigo.
Deerstalker's a good name. I like that.
It's Evan.
Well, Evan does not like compliments. Evan's, you're
Evan
very.
doesn't know how to react to compliments.
No, as somebody, like we said, we like seeing ourselves in other things, and seeing Evan take a compliment and go, I was like,
That look of like, I don't know how to take this, what do you mean?
It's like, I feel you, I see you.
And that's one thing too. Also, we do strive for some level of authenticity. If we
Yes.
have questions about something for any particular culture or a regional thing, as simple as that sounds, but like, man, the difference between Cleveland and Cincinnati is pretty tremendous, and it's as big as the gap between there and either place and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Dialect, accents, little details, things that we like, that kind of stores the layouts of stores. They're different, right?
Yeah.
Like, you drive around a little bit, you find little things like that. What's the easiest way to learn stuff? Ask questions, make friends. So with Deerstalker, I know like a few people actually in the pro stories voiced concerns about authenticity about a Native American folklore character. Don't look it, I'm 1/8 Native. What's the easiest way for me to find this stuff out? Call some cousins.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's it. That's the truth. Like, call up some people who I know who have more, you know, more in the culture and more in touch with that group. It's as easy as picking up the phone sometimes. So,
Evan's base was pretty solid.
yeah.
What are some, how, you know what, let's start with this and then I'll get to that. How far into this are you right now? What do you have out right now? What can we see at your table?
So right now we have Full Standard Part 1, And we have a couple of sample pages from the Fool's Gambit Part 2, which is at this point most of the way done. Yeah, it's got like, I think 2 more chapters that need to be drawn before it goes to print. It's just getting all of that done at this point. And then, so the 2 black and white books that we have, one of them is the preview that we did for the Fool's Gambit, because we got into this and we're like, okay, it's going to take us a good while to get this book out, but we still want to get the word out for it. So,
And raise funds.
yeah, and to try and raise funds for it. So how do we do this? Let's do a little preview. Just do a short black and white, like the chapters that we have done now. Do a preview book. So we have that still. We have a couple of those left.
That was a limited run of 875.
Yes, so we have some of those left, and then we have another black and white preview book that's for Riserverse Comics Presents New Machines, which is the first anthology book that we're going to be doing. The anthology books don't have anything to do with the core Riserverse. These are side stories that we wanted to tell for fun. And the most that you might see them connected to the Riserverse is like a TV show somebody's watching or a book they're reading. But you guys actually get to see the story instead of just being like, okay, they're watching something called Bad Hand. I don't know what that is. You're actually going to get to see it. So we have the first anthology that we have 2 stories from it that he will actually get everything for. Those are already done and ready to go. But the other stories aren't, because Evan.
I don't know what you're talking about. We can't put everything on Evan for that one.
I'll get to the other one. Evan has the really great problem of he writes epics. You cannot make him write a short story. I'm concerned about the one he's working on now. So the original story that they were going to do for New Machines ended up being a much bigger project than what they initially thought it was going to be, and I'm like, you can't put that in New Machines. That needs to be its own book under Riserverse Comics Presents, guys, like, because he's co-writing it with another guy that we work with, Karen, and we're like, dude, yeah, it can't be in there. It's got to be its own book. It's going to be too long. We can't chunk this into a small enough section and it still makes sense. Because that's the whole thing, like, the ending of where the story ends has to make sense, even if it's a to be continued. And there's not really a good place to do that before it becomes so long that it's like, why is this in an anthology book of short stories? So it's like, all right, that has to be its own thing. So they're writing a replacement story for that. And then the other story, we actually had a small tragedy with that one where a computer crash wiped out the script and he did not save a backup or send the backup to me.
Yeah, or me.
He got in trouble for that. I don't yell often, but I was not happy about that. But thankfully he's managed to rewrite it, I think to the end or almost to the end. So it is pretty much done, getting us more or less back on track. And then the last story of it is actually a wraparound story that's like introducing each of the stories. And that one can't even begin until all of the others are done because he wants to reference stuff that happens in the stories. So he can't do it until they're all done.
So actually answers, I was right to say, no, I want to do this one first because my next thing was going to be, so what's next for the Riserverse? And it appears to be that. So.
Oh, there's more than that.
In the next 2 years, we're aiming to have about 6 books out, and they're going to be spread in different things. So obviously, Fool's Gambit Part 2.
I have to do a quick announcement. Please continue with it.
So Fool's Gambit Part 2, it's kind of been obvious, has to come out. Haley mentioned Riserverse Comics Presents New Machines, the anthology book that presents line. We also will be putting out a children-oriented, children-friendly, like a young readers kind of thing, get that elementary school demographic covered. One thing that we've seen a lot of are families coming through, and you saw the pages in the list. It's not exactly great material for an 8-year-old, 7-year-old kid. So we don't want anybody to be left out, but we have plenty of room, plenty of ideas, things to do that can appeal to all ages. And I shift gears from the weird stuff that I did with Inquietus and Vespilar to the day the Earth paused, which will be our first, tentatively, our first in the Flagtails line.
I
So
don't even think tentatively, I think that is our first.
it'll depend on how things go with the artist, which we'll be hammering that out with her in 2 months.
Thereabouts.
Um,
I still think that one's gonna end up being the one that gets done first, though.
Evan has another, an ongoing idea for a children-friendly series that will start and grow with the reader, aimed at starting around first grade.
Yeah.
And kind of run to like middle school or high school kind of thing.
High school, even college level, like, you'll get to that.
That's such a cool legacy thing too, because whenever he brought that to us, I said to him, man, that's an idea of something that, yes, it's finite. It is this window of time that you're going to be doing this. But once it's done, that's the kind of thing that the reader who grows up with it today, who has kids, can go, hey, this is what I read when I was your age.
That also
Just keep that, get goosebumps on that. That's such a cool
Spectacular.
idea. Such a, and Evan, the one to bring that to us, it's like, this is an epic that needs to be exactly what he wants to do. So we're very cautious with that. We're hammering out the fine details and the mechanics on how that's going to work, the pacing, all of
Setting
that
up
fun.
meetings with teachers so that he can
Yes.
figure out exactly how to
Because-
scale it for the kids.
It goes right back to that ask questions, learn new things, and adapt it. At the same time, Evan, big brain, big ideas, has Heathcliff, the Mad Crusader, and that's one that we're stoked about because I get to coordinate that one. This wonderful, ambitious idea of his. It's your baby. I'm going to let you run with this, please.
We actually have a poster of Heathcliff. So the first poster Heathcliff will tentatively be out in the next year and a half. He's work on its roll really fast. A lot faster than we expected.
Yeah, we're like 40 pages in on it already, and we just finished the full script for book one.
2 weeks ago?
No, it was before that. We're in June, dude. It was finished when it was almost entirely finished by mid-March. Time is flying.
I don't know if you guys are working on scripts of the other books yet. It's an ongoing series. So
Time's not real.
The Red Death was the one that we had to go back together.
But yeah, it's a post-apocalyptic thing where essentially, what was it? You guys said the population gets knocked down to 8%.
8% in the World War III mutually assured destruction nuclear scenario. So we have this drastic population reduction, and the story takes place somewhere between 500 and 1,000 years after. And the reason it's vague is that nobody really seems to have kept track of the time very well afterwards. But we're in the new Dark Ages. We now have knights. It's this Dark Ages growing to Middle Ages kind of thing. Most of today's technology is long gone, but there are some holdovers. And then there's a very dangerous thing. All of these irradiated objects that are just sitting there because nobody cleans up a battlefield, especially not when there's such drastic decimation, right? These nuclear radiation tainted items, these objects, people are getting them and some people are getting powers from them. Most people are getting reduced to these mindless, id-driven, zombie-like things that are breaking down. Think Incredible Melting Man or Elements of the Thing. A lot of fun comparisons there, but
Or that body horror stuff.
very much body horror. Heathcliff, our main protagonist, refers to them as goo-man. Other people in the world mostly refer to them as coagulites, to dehumanize the fact that these things, they're not people. And there's no coming back from it. at least as far as anyone can tell. And Heathcliff himself has decided he wants to get rid of the magic and get rid of this Doom Man problem. It's a hard world. Everyone sees the world. We look around the room and we probably are all seeing the same walls and all that, the same colors more or less, right? The same blue and grayish blue kind of on the carpet, right? Yeah. The world of Heathcliff the Mad Crusader is rather harsh, realistic looking, and a lot of olive drabs, a lot of grays, grayish, browns. It's a very not happy place. Heathcliff, however, is not really attuned to this. His denial mojo's through the roof. Everything is softer and rounder. Think Archie Comics meets American Dad for kind of how he sees it. Smooth features, soft, no hard edges. Bright, vibrant, lively colors. Think late 80s, early 90s comics with the bright blues and oranges and yellows, yeah? Not quite neon day-glow colors, but man, we're almost that close, right? Heathcliff could be walking down the road with another knight, and there's a dead deer on the side of the road. The other knight sees it's a dead deer. It's decomposed. Heathcliff looks at it, and it's almost this Disney-fied kind of thing, where Heathcliff looks and it's this little baby deer curled up taking a nap. He's not dealing with the real world very well, but he knows what the real world problems are, and he is doing his best to address them. But Heathcliff has a problem. Aside from that, he does have a connection to the real world. His stuffed bear monster amalgamation, Sir Teddydor. Yeah, his stuffed animal is a knight, of course, Sir Teddydor. And Sir Teddydor is the voice of reason and rationale of Heathcliff's mind. So Heathcliff will, Sir Teddy's right here, dancing around and talking to him, and Heathcliff says, I'm going to do this. Sir Teddydor's, no, that's not a good idea. You really should. No, of course Heathcliff's going to do that. Heathcliff's going to do it. Everybody else who might see that conversation just sees this lunatic in armor, head-to-toe armor, holding his stuffed animal at arm's length and talking to it and talking back to himself in a different voice. The rest of the world sees that he's a madman. He's gone.
Up to him.
But if Heathcliff gets dirty, it's kind of a neat freak. If his tabard armor gets sullied, it's a very harsh adjustment into seeing things very close to the real world. And the object of his ire is the only thing that will be color in those colors. Everything else will be kind of sepia. So we actually have 3 different artists that will be working on this. 2 of them were here earlier today, John Geist and John Jones. The third, unfortunately, is not able to join us because of work obligations. It's the problem when we have Joe jobs. You know, we just come up for something. Life happens, right? But
I was over here cracking up because of the Teddy's voice of reason thing. Because one of the scenes that they wrote immediately popped into my head, and I'm just like, oh my god. There's a moment when you realize that Heathcliff doesn't know how to swim, and Teddy tries to tell him how. Would you like to tell them Heathcliff's response?
it's such a wonderful. It's a small spoiler, but it's a good one.
It's a good one.
Heathcliff's response is, why should I use my legs? I'm not running.
So there's a good element of kind of splat-stick comedy in Heathcliff, but gallows humor, very, very dark humor, elements of horror. We keep coming back to that with a lot of our stories.
I got shit that they're making me do. Are you guys good or too late?
Should be good.
We should be good.
I will believe
Wrap up very soon.
Yeah, I mean, this room is yours. You got nobody after you, so just hang out.
Cool.
Feel free to tell us to shut up whenever.
Yes,
if you have
yes.
any questions, go ahead.
Where can we buy your books? Sorry? Where can we buy your books?
So we have a table here, and we also have a website, riserversecomics.com,
Okay.
and we have a store on there that you guys can get the books from as well.
Okay.
And they will always be available. The only ones that we aren't putting on the site for now are the preview ones, the black and white ones.
Okay.
And we also have digital copies up on the website.
Oh, good.
We're trying to make things accessible, and those preview books doing the limited runs. The idea was kind of an incentive thing for at these tables. Since you brought it up, we may as well mention a special offer. Yeah. Since we have the 3 books, we're knocking $5 off if somebody wants to get all 3 books. So they would normally be 45, like 25, 10, 10. But we're doing today $5 off if you get all 3 of them. So $40 for the 3 books.
Okay.
Should be enough entertaining reading to keep you holding on until we get the next book out.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was going to say before, we do actually have the poster, or I did say it, we have the poster size for, it's like, it's
11
not,
by 17 poster.
yeah, it's the cover for the upcoming E-Cliff book in black and white. And it doesn't have the title on it yet, but they are signed by all of us except for Eve. who
Yeah,
couldn't be
Eve
here
was
today.
not here, so.
We met her last year. She was actually in jail. She'll probably get the cat back now.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
coming, and
It's already been an hour.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Here, real quick. What's that?
Oh.
I don't have our
Thanks.
website on it.
Okay.
We should have had a stick
Take care.
out.
Probably should.
All